Hey, my name is Matt Storr and I repair saxophones for a living, and I've wanted one of these for a while. This is a Martin soprano. This is my, up until now, favorite soprano, but recently it's been supplanted by this, the Conn Stretch soprano. Now, why do they call it the Stretch? Well, it's like visibly narrower. Look at the just kind of thickness here, right? Like how wide that is. And it is also longer than a traditional soprano. And the only issue is they only play in tune very well with their original mouthpieces, which are really hard to come by. And a lot of times you can find a stretch without the mouthpiece, which is what I did on this one, and I got it cheap because the person selling it was honest and said they couldn't make it play in tune. They knew what it was, but just did not have access to an original mouthpiece. There are also copies of the original mouthpieces made by Ed Pillinger, but they can be pretty expensive and difficult to find. So I'm actually thinking, so this original mouthpiece, it's a little different than a regular Conn mouthpiece. It's a little shorter. Also, it has a much smaller kind of like squeeze throat chamber that looks pretty modern compared to everything else that was going on at that time. Let's see if I can get like a illumination behind it. Yeah, there we go. See how like squeezed that is compared to like an average vintage soprano mouthpiece that's really, really like open in there. But you take a Yanagasawa mouthpiece and you take a look at the inside. It's pretty darn close, right? It's just a bit long. So I'm going to try and cut that down and see if we can make it play in tune. So here's my setup. I don't know if it's right, but I think it'll work. I just machined down a drumstick till it was a pretty tight fit. Because when I do cut this off, I don't want this flying, right? So this drumstick goes pretty far into here. So I should be able to just separate it, have a ring and a mouthpiece still press fit onto the drumstick. And it's about the right length. So we'll see how this works. There we go. And there we are. I actually wanted it like a hair longer because this one, when I was tuning it, was like a little farther off the end than I wanted, but not by much. So here we go, comparing the original stretch mouthpiece with the one I just, modified. Didn't take long at all, probably 20 minutes, start to finish. But there we go. There's what the end looks like. I dressed it a little bit to make it look nicer. If I was doing this for a customer or if someone was doing it for a customer, it probably would take longer than 20 minutes to get it to look really nice. But I'll go ahead and play test it now and see what we got. But I don't know. I'm fairly hopeful. All right, so here's the stretch. And there's the mouthpiece. So it actually ended up working great. I'm very pleased with it. There's one change I want to make. The bore is bigger than the original. So, depending on where you put it on the mouthpiece, the chamber, whatever's left between the end of the horn and that part right there where the throat is in the mouthpiece is going to be larger than it would be otherwise. You can see that the cork is fairly thick on the end there. Come on, focus. There it is, sort of. It should be about half that. So I want to put a liner inside the mouthpiece, just a cylinder that like fits in there and goes all the way to the end to shrink down the inside of the bore. But other than that, I'm very pleased with it. It plays in tune, plays well, plays easy, sounds great. I think that stretch sopranos are one of the best sopranos ever made. They're just finicky, right? And this, as far as I'm aware, is one of the easiest ways that you can take a modern mouthpiece and turn it into a stretch mouthpiece. Here's the piece we cut off. I rounded off the edges there to make it just a little bit nicer, but doesn't look too crazy. Plays great. I love it. I've been playing on it for about a month. I think I'll probably adjust some of these key heights. This is not an overhaul I did, and the person who did the overhaul did a pretty good job, but they didn't have the benefit of having a mouthpiece that tuned with it. So I think I'll mess with that a little bit, but first I'm going to put a liner in here. But I anticipate, based on the starting point right now, that it's going to end up just fine. So if you've got a stretch and you're looking for a mouthpiece for it, you can take one of these modern Yanagasawa mouthpieces, simply chop off the end, and you're doing pretty good. And if you want to make it totally perfect, add a little liner inside, and it is basically going to be the same as the original, just with a modern facing on it. So hope you find that helpful, useful, and informative. This is not anything I've heard of anyone else doing. I don't know if it's right. Your results may vary, but I figured why not give it a try?